Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for August 17th, 2017. On today's show, we'll be diving into the news, talking about Ben Affleck and the Batman, Daniel Craig back as Bond, Indiana Jones Land, Deadpool 2, and Mission Impossible 6 set accident updates. And in the mailbag, we'll be talking about AMC's battle with MoviePass. With me on the show today are Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's up?
And Brad Oman.
Hey, hey.
Let's go right into the news, guys. Last night, or rather Tuesday night, Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother, appeared on a telethon for the Jimmy Fund in Boston, and he made some comments about, he was asked about his brother playing Batman in a standalone Batman movie. Let's just play the audio.
There's a rumor that he is not going to be in the standalone Batman movie. I thought he was a tremendous Batman. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
I thought he was an okay Batman. As far as he was great. He was great. He's a hero, so he had something to channel and work with there. But he's not going to do that movie, I don't think.
Breaking
Sorry
news.
to say.
You broke my heart.
Is that breaking news? I was just kind of making that up.
I will take it. I heard it from Casey Affleck. I'm going to tweet that out, and I heard it here first. So
Okay, so that was from WEEI, which is a station in New England, and Nesson. It was a telethon. It appears at first that Casey Affleck, and you can see the video, it seems like he's seriously saying that his brother is not going to be starring in the Batman. But then after he's told, the reaction from the crowd in the room, he seems to step it back quite a bit. Some people are saying that he was just joking.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell because, his reaction isn't as one where he's, he didn't have a look on his face, because there's video with it too, where he's like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that, or where he's caught off guard. He legitimately has a reaction of oh no, I was just screwing around. But it seems like a weird way to joke around, to make up that your brother's just not going to be Batman in the next movie. I don't know. Casey Affleck is one for doing deadpan kind of humor like that. I mean, we all saw, we've all seen him do similar things before with his characters.
Yeah. I mean, he did a whole movie with him playing a character as himself. So.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to say. I really don't know. I get the feeling that there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes where Ben Affleck is somehow trying to get out of this, despite his statement at Comic-Con. And yeah, so I really don't know.
I sort of read it as these guys presented Casey Affleck with this rumor that Ben is not going to be Batman. And I sort of read it as Casey Affleck is sort of an uncomfortable guy around the press. And it seemed to me from watching this video that he was just sort of going along with what they were saying, just because it's an easy and more comfortable thing to do. And then as soon as he said it, these guys were like, oh, we heard it from Casey Affleck first. And that's not true, because they just prompted him with that rumor. So the whole thing, I think, is just, it's probably being blown a little bit out of proportion. I read his body language as genuine shock and surprise when they reacted that way. So I think it was probably him just trying to gracefully move on into the next topic, and then they reacted in a way that he was not expecting.
That's possible. I can tell you this: when Matt Reeves signed on for Batman, I heard at that time that he wanted to, start from scratch. He wanted to completely rewrite the script that Ben Affleck was working on with Jeff Johns. It was going to be a completely new story. We reported that in Slash Film. People called us out and said that we were making up news. Months later, it was actually reported as fact. So that came true. And at the same time, when I heard about the script, I heard from very good sources close to the production, as good of sources as you can possibly get, that Ben Affleck would probably not be starring in that movie, that he did not want to continue on with the DC EU. At Comic-Con, like you mentioned, he had this denial. It was almost like non-denial denial. He was like, I'm excited about being part of this. But
yeah, he's like playing Batman is awesome. And it's like, you're right, but are you still going to do it?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard... I obviously cannot say names, and I know that that's not really reportable, but I've heard from my sources that, after the press for Justice League, we're going to, he's going to bow out gracefully. How that's going to work, I don't know. I could be wrong. They could be wrong.
And for anyone saying that that the reason that Peter can't say his sources means that it's not true or that it's a lie or anything like that, this is how the business works sometimes, is that you can't say who's giving information because then you won't get that information and somebody will get in trouble, and that's how people lose jobs. So it's the same reason, why in All the President's Men there were secret sources and no one could divulge who was giving the information. That's just how journalism works.
Yeah. I mean, the thing you got to look at, I think, with a situation like this or any rumor is look at the source. Have they been wrong a lot in the past? In this area of expertise, have they had some information? Have I broken some Batman news in the past? And yes, I have, and it's been accurate. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not saying it's true, but it is an interesting topic of conversation online today. Yesterday on the podcast, Daniel Craig said he had not signed on for James Bond yet. And hours after we reported that on the podcast and on the site, he confirmed he's playing Bond. Ben, what do we know?
Yes. So he went on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert and basically finally came out with it and said, yes, he's actually known for a couple months that he is definitely coming back to play James Bond once again. We're not sure if it's going to be one movie, two movies. That's still a little bit unclear. But the morning before, he was like, oh, no decision has been made. And on the show, he basically said, I want to apologize to all of the outlets that I did interviews with earlier today because I was holding this news for the Late Show, which makes sense because it's a big show, obviously has a lot more a wide reach than some local radio station. So Daniel Craig is back, guys.
See, I'm a little bit disappointed by this, even though I've liked the Daniel Craig Bond movies more than probably the previous Bond films. I was kind of excited for the prospect of them rebooting it again with a new actor and new take. Ben, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be long before that happens. By the time this new movie comes out, the new Bond film, I think Daniel Craig is going to be 50, maybe 51 years old or something. Roger Moore played the role way longer than that during his run, but you can tell that Craig is probably getting near the end. So I think it'll only be a few more years before this whole thing ramps back up again and we start speculating about who's going to be the new Bond. Personally, I'm glad that Craig is coming back because I didn't like Spectre, and I really love Casino Royale and the work that he does specifically as Bond, even if the movies that he's in as Bond aren't always as perfect. So I'm really hoping that he gets sent off properly with a movie that everyone loves and that all the Bond fans are pleased with, instead of sort of limping out like he would have if he left after Spectre.
Yeah, I just hope Roger Deakins is shooting it. A couple people have noticed a infamous producer has retweeted the news. You have this in sequel bits, Ben. What do we know about this?
Yeah, so Megan Ellison, who runs Annapurna Pictures, retweeted the announcement that Daniel Craig is coming back as Bond. And it's interesting because Annapurna is one of I think 5 studios that is sort of vying for the rights to distribute the Bond movies moving forward. So I think there were some rumors back and forth a couple months ago about which studios were still in the running for that. And I think based on this retweet, I mean, it's not like we don't have a full story on this, but just, it is interesting that she would retweet this because she doesn't really retweet a lot of casting news on a regular basis unless it has something to do with her production company and her distribution company. So,
although it should be noted
something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it should be noted that she has talked about other films that she hasn't been involved in. She's a film fan, and that's why she got into the business. So it could be nothing. Like the Ben Affleck news. Moving on, a rumor going around right now is that Disney World's Animal Kingdom, this is the theme park, their 4th theme park in Florida, where they just added Avatar Land, or Pandora, the World of Avatar. I'm still going to call it Avatar Land. Fuck you all. And traffic to that park has gone up considerably. That Disney is considering, according to this rumor, turning the Dinoland USA area of the park, which is kind of like this really crappily, poorly themed kiddie land, into an Indiana Jones land. Of course, Disney bought the rights to Lucasfilm and now owns the rights to Indiana Jones. They previously had some rides based on the character in their parks. This, theoretically, according to this rumor, would turn Dinosaur, which is a ride that has the exact same vehicles and track layout as Indiana Jones Adventure in Disneyland, into basically the same. It would become the same ride, and it would add another e-ticket attraction based on the Indiana Jones franchise. We don't know if this is true. It's kind of sad because I like Dinosaur. Dinosaur is just such a unique attraction. It has these animatronic dinosaurs that are 100 times more realistic looking than the stuff at Jurassic Park in Universal Studios, and it would be sad to see that go. But Dinoland I have not so much esteem for, so I would love to adventure in the world of Indiana Jones. I know both of you are not huge theme park fans, but would an Indiana Jones themed land be something that would attract you to Florida?
Well, let me be clear. It's not that I'm not a theme park fan. I just don't live near any of the coolest theme parks to be able to frequent them. So, but if I did, I don't know if I would go as often as you do, Peter. But I would definitely go, a decent amount. And Indiana Jones, is one of my favorite franchises of all time. So anything, that allows me to immerse myself in that world, I think I would like to, at least give a shot and see how it works.
Yeah, and the indie stuff that's already in the Disney parks is some of my favorite stuff there. The Stunt Spectacular and the ride that you mentioned already. I just love, getting into that immersive feeling because I love those movies so much. And Disney always does such a great job of creating, all their line areas and the queue sections and stuff that sort of put you in that vibe. I would love seeing that expanded to a whole land. So yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, and of course, Steven Spielberg is directing a new Indiana Jones movie, which is coming out, I believe, in 2020 at this point.
I think it was 2019, and then I think it got bumped to 2020.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that they're going to wait until that movie comes out to, check the temperature of the water, because it's been a long time since we've had an Indiana Jones movie that people have loved before they decide to go with this land. But moving on, last week we reported on 2 set accidents. Tom Cruise possibly getting injured on the set of Mission Impossible 6, and a stunt woman dying in a car accident on the set of Deadpool 2. We now have updates on both of those stories. Brad, what do we know?
Yeah, so first up with Mission Impossible, as we recounted before, Tom Cruise was performing a stunt in London, jumping from a scaffolding to a building, seemed to have maybe missed his mark. After the take was done, he was seen limping away from the set. Looked like he was actually hurt, but we hadn't really heard anything about how extensive those injuries were. Today we got official updates from Paramount. It turns out Tom Cruise has broken his ankle, and production will be delayed anywhere between 6 weeks and 3 months. It all kind of depends on how long it takes Tom Cruise's ankle to actually heal. The good news, I guess, or at least the silver lining, as Christopher McQuarrie described it, is that they're not necessarily fully shut down. They're still able to complete some things that Tom Cruise isn't required for. So right now, Christopher McQuarrie is back on set in Leavesden Studios shooting some stuff. And then even if they can't shoot anything more without Tom Cruise, basically what they're going to be doing is shifting the post-production schedule so that they can start working on stuff that's already finished in the editing room and do visual effects and all that jazz. And then once Tom Cruise can shoot again, they'll get back into regular production mode. So as of now, Paramount is saying they won't have to push back their release date, which is currently set for July 27th, 2018. But depending on how things go, that there's a chance that could change. Apparently, one of the other complications that could be caused by this is that with a Mission Impossible 6 production delay, it might end up affecting when Paramount can get started on the Top Gun sequel, because that's already set for July 2019, and they were hoping to have Tom Cruise's schedule ready to go to start shooting after he was done with Mission Impossible. But if it takes longer to shoot Mission Impossible, they might have to push back the start date for Top Gun. And then, not to mention the fact that this kind of messes with the schedules of all of Tom Cruise's co-stars who were planning on being done with this movie at a certain time, and now will probably have to reset their schedule and figure out how they're going to move on with their next projects after Mission Impossible.
Yes, and you noted in your previous story that this isn't the first time Tom Cruise has injured himself on a movie. I mean, he does a lot of his own stunts. It was fantastic to see him finish out that take before he limps off screen in that footage that was previously posted. Not so fantastic. Deadpool 2. The stunt woman died. We now have more information on that. What do we know?
Yeah, so it looks like Deadpool will be getting back into production after this unfortunate occurrence on set. The stunt woman has been identified. It's really upsetting because this is actually her first time. She was going to be a stunt driver. Her name is Joy S.J. Harris. And originally she was a professional road racer, so she has plenty of experience on motorcycles, which is exactly what she was doing the stunt for. But it turns out that during this stunt she wasn't wearing a helmet. The helmet that was being used on set that was outfitted for the wig that the previous stunt double had to wear was only fitted for that stunt double, and it wouldn't fit on her. But apparently it was decided that she wanted to do the stunt anyway, and her not having a helmet seemed to be a big part of the issue with her, and this turning into a fatal accident as opposed to just an accident where she would have been able to recover. So obviously the entire production, is devastated by this news. Both Ryan Reynolds and director David Leitch have released statements about it and, lamenting the accident. And it's just really tragic. I hope that this isn't, a trend that's going to be starting because stunts are getting bigger and stunt people are getting more risky, that we're going to see more of these accidents occur, because that's it's not good for anybody.
And it should be mentioned, David Leitch got his start as a stuntman. You can see him, I believe. David Leitch was the guy. He did Atomic Blonde, right? Yes. You could see him in Fight Club falling down a set of stairs as Tyler Durden's stunt double. So he started as a stunt person, became a second assistant director, or second unit director rather, and is the director on this film. So you can tell that he's probably taking it worse than anybody, being responsible for that. Guys, let's jump into the mailbag. Mitch from Maryland, one of our favorite listeners, writes in with the following, quote, I've been a MoviePass subscriber for more than a year with a subscription price of $30 a month. Based on my movie-going habits, I would typically break even, but occasionally do a little better in some of the movie-heavy summer months. Needless to say, I was ecstatic when I heard you guys report that they were taking the price drop to $9.95. But now I'm reading that AMC is trying to block MoviePass and is even threatening legal action. But I can't figure out why, and am hoping you guys can help break it down for me. So Mitch has a bunch of questions. How does MoviePass's subscription service negatively impact AMC? Their statement points to sustainability of MoviePass, but I'm not sure why they would care. In theory, MoviePass would drive more viewers to see more movies, who would then eat more popcorn, which is what everyone wants, right? Unless AMC is planning to launch a similar venture for a higher price, why the move to block them? I'm honestly baffled, and I'm curious to your thoughts. Cheers. Brad, you wrote a whole article on slashfilm.com called AMC Theaters Wants to Block MoviePass, and that's just plain stupid. What do we know about this, and why?
Yeah, this is supremely frustrating. So as we recounted yesterday, MoviePass just had its majority stake bought by a company, and basically the company has a goal of
Actually, before that, let's back up really quick, because some people might not know what MoviePass is. MoviePass is a subscription service that you pay a monthly fee, and basically you get to see one movie a day at the participating theaters through an app. You buy the ticket, and you pick up the ticket at the movie theater, and you could see 30 movies a month, right? Theoretically. And
if there were 30 movies to see, you could see the movies a month. You can't see the same movie twice, and you can't see 3D or IMAX movies.
Yeah, so before they had it was a $30 price or a $50 price, depending on where you were. Now it's a $10 price, which means in LA, if I have a membership, I see one movie, I make out because movie tickets here are like $15. So, okay, go on, Brad.
Yeah, well, so MoviePass now has been bought by this company named Helios and Matheson Analytics. They're throwing a lot of money at it because what they want to do is they want to build the customer base so they can start mining data and viewing behavior habits in order to more effectively help studios and exhibitors market movies towards their viewers and figure out how to get more butts in the seats. And helping get more butts in the seats is the fact that you're only charging moviegoers a $10 price, and then they can go and see movies as many times as they want to, as we talked about. Now, the movie theater isn't losing any money here because they're still getting the full ticket price for every single ticket bought from MoviePass. That's the whole reason why this new company has thrown so much money at MoviePass, because they know
it should be explained that the way MoviePass works is they basically have a deal with MasterCard that basically when you choose to see a movie through MoviePass, they activate this MasterCard credit card that lets them purchase a ticket for full price from the movie theater.
Exactly.
For you.
And so that's why they're throwing so much money at MoviePass, is because they know it's going to cost money to pay for all these tickets to build up a user base. But then once they have a big enough user base, they'll be able to use that to, create a whole new way of marketing to people. And now this is something that Fandango has done ever since they became a big player in online ticketing. Ever since they started getting a huge user base, they've been able to use data from their users and supply it to marketing companies. They have a partnership with Facebook to help sell tickets, and they've even started expanding into merchandise that is tied into all the movies that they sell tickets for. So if you get a large enough user base, you can expand into a lot of different arenas and make money in a different way other than just selling tickets. So eventually the hope is that MoviePass will be making money other ways as opposed to just selling these subscriptions, which obviously aren't going to make them a lot of money because they're going to be spending it to pay for all these tickets. Now, AMC has done the math, and they're right that to say that the model, it seems, is not sustainable. But what's so strange to me is that in their statement, they say the monthly price of $9.95 isn't doing moviegoers any favors. In AMC's view, that price level is unsustainable and only sets up consumers for ultimate disappointment down the road if or when the product can no longer be fulfilled.
But
now,
Brad,
that's the key.
But it does moviegoers favors because I would like to pay $10 a month for unlimited movies.
Well, see, this is the key here, and this is where it's not a problem for moviegoers. It's doing moviegoers plenty of favors, but the problem is that it won't be doing any favors for AMC, because even though AMC theaters won't be losing any money, this is a game changer situation here. If MoviePass lasts for even a year and they get a very large user base, all of a sudden you're going to have a bunch of movie theater goers who are going to be expecting to see a decent amount of movies for a very low price. If MoviePass happens to go under and it goes away, all those people who have been flocking to movie theaters more often than they would aren't going to come back to AMC unless there's a price drop. And that's what AMC is totally worried about. They're worried that they're going to have to start charging less for their tickets in order to get people into the seats. And MoviePass is having such a low price point is definitely going to create that issue for them. However, the other issue with AMC's approach to this is that AMC doesn't make a ton of money off of movie tickets. A movie theater makes their money from concessions. The way the movie ticket profits work is the first 2 weeks, a movie theater usually has to give 90 to 95% of the money made from movie tickets back to the distributor. In the weeks following, it decreases as audiences go down. So like the second or the third week, it might be 85%, and the fourth week it might be 80, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Until the movie is gone from theaters.
It usually ends up being the movie studios take like 60% of the profits of the box office overall. But yes, earlier on, they're taking more of it.
Exactly. So if we're going to get more people buying tickets into theaters, not only is that more people spending money on tickets, so they're going to end up getting more money from that anyway, but you're also going to get more people spending money on concessions who otherwise wouldn't even be at the theater at all. So I don't see how this is necessarily a long-term bad thing for AMC theaters, especially when you look at the statistics that show, even though we've had record revenue years for box office recently, the attendance has gone down significantly. And the only reason that revenue has stayed steady is because ticket prices have risen, and they've tried to quote-unquote innovate by introducing things like D-Box and 4DX and pushing 3D IMAX movies down audiences' throats, or rather through their eyes.
And I think the only thing that it's clear that that AMC is sort of worried about the potential of having to lower ticket prices, but they should either go ahead and lower ticket prices once this whole thing eventually plays out, and if MoviePass ends up becoming truly unsustainable and falling off, and if everyone reacts the way that they think that they're going to, either lower ticket prices, or here's an idea, just make the theatrical experience better for people so people will want to go and see a movie. It's not hard. It's really not. The idea of, like, I don't know if you guys have been to an AMC theater recently, but I went when I visited my family back in Florida, and it was like, I think it's 25 minutes of pre-movie trailers and commercials and all of that shit beforehand. It's ridiculous.
It has become the McDonald's or the fast food of movie theaters. Like, from the moment you walk in, you're being upsold on everything. And, like, it doesn't feel clean, or at least the ones I've been to. The one I think we have in Burbank doesn't have reserve seating for a city that, is living off reserve seating, like LA. And, those 30 minutes of advertisements are just killer.
And then, like, the whole thing of, people having their phones on and all that stuff all the way through, it's like, it's no wonder that people don't want to do this. It's just, they really need to get with it and, like, understand why everyone loves Alamo Drafthouse so much. You don't have to completely adopt every single thing that the Drafthouse is doing, but just give a shit, just try. Just have a manager on staff who will enforce things if people complain about it, because I've heard so many stories of people going to AMC theaters and complaining about people talking in the back, or people shining their phones everywhere or whatever, and the theaters are just too scared to potentially lose a customer that they're just not doing anything about it right now. So it's a terrible experience, generally speaking. But there are a lot of easy fixes here that they could do.
That aside, though, just going back to the MoviePass thing, AMC has reported losses. Their revenue is not going up. Their stock price is going down. You'd think they might want to take this bump in. This would obviously drive business towards them, even if this isn't a sustainable thing. And sure, they're going to have to deal with the customer service hiccups of people that have MoviePass going up to employees. Being like, why isn't this working? Or why, the consumer confusion. But it seems to me like, I went to, every time I've been to the UK, and you go to theaters in the UK, they offer for, I think, like £15 or something, unlimited movies at a theater. Like, they have these subscription plans at the theater level. And, when we reported this online, tons of tweets from people internationally that already, have this kind of thing. It's weird that we haven't gotten on that bandwagon yet. Why we can't? I'm not sure $10 is sustainable, but why we can't make this work for like $20 or something.
So, Brad, you were talking about how they're going to make all this money in concessions in the short term. Like, what do you think they should do here?
Well, that's the thing is, like, I mean, first of all, you're totally right about the movie theater experience, and Peter clearly saw me like talking to somebody on Twitter and like criticizing AMC theaters, because in my area, AMC theaters is the dominant film chain, and I've had plenty of bad experiences there, mostly because it's a staff that really doesn't care in the same way that you would say that a fast food crew doesn't care that you're getting a gourmet meal. Like, no one at the movie theater actually cares about the experience, to the point where at one time there were 2 screens in the theater that had some kind of issue with their silver screen, because the silver screen, if it gets scratched, it creates color issues. And I realized this when I had seen a movie one time with my mom, that there was something wrong about the color. There was a blue tint. And I told somebody about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, the screen is scratched. We're supposed to get it fixed soon." Da da da. It wasn't until a month later that I was back in that same theater, and it still wasn't fixed. And I refused to stay and watch it because it was bugging the hell out of me, because it just ruins the aesthetic. And all they could tell me was that there's only one company that fixes silver screens in the area, and we have to wait for them to get here. And it's like, okay, well then, A, why are you still playing movies on that screen and providing a subpar experience? And B, find another company to fix that screen. Like, do you just not care whatsoever? Like, do whatever you have to in order to get your business running where a point that it needs to be. It's just extremely frustrating. But the one way that I feel like AMC can fix all this, if they really think that it's a problem, is put themselves in control of the MoviePass by making their own subscription service. Like Peter just said, there's plenty of theater chains in the UK who are already doing this themselves. They control the price point. They get all the money for it because they're the ones with the subscription service, and they don't have to worry about it because they're the ones that are in control of everything. So it seems like a no-brainer to where if they don't want to have to worry about MoviePass, then go ahead and create your own subscription service.
I mean, I'm surprised that AMC didn't think about purchasing MoviePass anyways. Like, I'm surprised this other company was the ones that bought them. I feel like they have created an ecosystem and a technology to be able to accomplish all this. And if they were owned by a theater chain, it would be in their benefit.
Well, the funny thing, there was a time when MoviePass was working with AMC Theaters, or they were at least testing it anyway, to have an option. One of the subscription options was to have a tier that would have included IMAX and 3D formats. So they've been fine with MoviePass operating this entire time, but now they're just concerned because of this extremely low price point, which is even more evidence to show you that clearly AMC is worried about them having to react and give something to customers they're not prepared to give.
One last thing I wanted to talk about is the devaluing of the cinema experience, because it seems like that's one of AMC's points, that like people are going to go to this MoviePass, they're going to be paying $10 a month for movies. They're going to end up going to the movies every week, and then eventually MoviePass is going to go out of business, right? And then people are not going to want to pay the $15 a ticket to go to the movies. Now, I'll tell you this. When I was a salesperson, the number one thing was get the person... like when you're a car sales... I wasn't a car salesman, but when you're a car sales, the number one thing you want to do is get the guy behind the wheel of the car and using the car, because the percentage of them actually buying the car after they've touched the wheel of the car and actually are driving it has gone up considerably. And I know that's a bad analogy, but once you develop a behavior of going to the movie theaters every Friday night, even if you're paying a much less price, I don't think that you're going to stop completely when that price point goes away. I think that behavior becomes part of your, you have now drilled in your life that experience of, that is a weekly ritual of going to the movies. So I think it's kind of BS that they are claiming that this will devalue the price of the movie experience. What do you guys think?
I think you're right to some degree. I think it's probably just a percentage game. Like there are people who will create that habit and will stick with it even if they have to the prices go up $5 or whatever it is, because that's become an important thing in their life. But on the other hand, I can see especially people with families or whatever, it just becomes too expensive to go. At a certain point, it's just like where that line is for people of like whether it's just whether it makes sense financially for them. So I think there's probably I don't know if it would be split half and half, but this is something that I'm sure the bean counters over there have probably tried to run through an algorithm or something and figure out. But yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Well, plus, I mean, it's kind of hard to devalue something that is losing value all the time when you have a theater chain that doesn't try and preserve the movie-going experience by making it something special. Like, charging $15 doesn't mean that something has a $15 value. It just means that's how much you're charging for it. It doesn't mean the product I'm getting for it is actually worth that much.
Right.
Yeah, I think we've said all that needs to be said on this topic. Neither of you guys have anything more to add, right?
Nope.
No?
The only thing I'd like to add is, hey, AMC, get your shit together.
I co-sign on that. You should read Brad's whole post on slashfilm.com. It's linked in the show notes. Obviously, to submit a question to the mailbag, send them to peter@slashfilm.com. Mention your name and general geographic location in case we mention it on the air like we did with Mitch from Maryland. And obviously, you can subscribe to Slash Film on iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, all the popular podcast apps. Go rate, review us on there, and help us out. Spread the word. We will see you tomorrow.